Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We have got an incredibly fascinating journey ahead of us today.
You really do.
Yeah, so I want you, the listener, to take a quick second and really think about your own personality. Just, think about exactly who you were, say, 5 years ago.
Oh, that's a good mental exercise.
Right. Your daily habits, how you reacted to a stressful day at work, the things you passionately cared about. Are you the exact same person today?
Probably not.
I'm guessing the answer is a hard no. And today, we are going to explain the exact psychological mechanics of, well, why you aren't.
We are indeed. And for today's session, I am officially donning the tweed jacket to take on the role of the lecturer. We are really unpacking the machinery of how we become who we are.
And I will gladly take the front row seat as the curious student. To get us there, we are pulling directly from section 11.4 of chapter 11 from Psychology 2E.
A fantastic section.
It really is. The mission today is to shortcut your understanding of human personality development. No fluff, just the actual science of you.
To set the stage properly for this, we have to draw a pretty sharp contrast with popular culture. Because, mention personality psychology, and most people immediately picture Sigmund Freud.
Oh, totally. The whole psychodynamic approach.
Exactly. We think of hidden urges, childhood trauma, and the subconscious mind just pulling all our strings.
The puppet master.
Right. But Section 11.4 points out a fatal flaw with that approach. It relies on inner processes that are largely untestable. I mean, you cannot put a subconscious urge under a microscope.
No, you really can't.
So the textbook focuses exclusively on what are called learning approaches. We are only looking at observable, measurable, and scientifically testable phenomena.
Which means we are stripping away the mystical elements entirely and looking strictly at behavior.
Yes. And we are starting at the absolute most extreme baseline of that concept. Enter B.F. Skinner.
Ah, Skinner.
Yeah. He was a strict behaviorist who completely rejected the concept of biological determinism.
Biological determinism being the idea that we're just born with certain traits, assuming someone is just a natural born extrovert or that someone has always been stubborn.
Skinner refused to accept that premise. He argued that personality is not inborn at all. Instead, he proposed that personality is shaped solely by the reinforcements and consequences outside of the organism. Solely. In his view, the environment is entirely responsible for all behavior, including those enduring, consistent behavior patterns that we just casually label as personality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Does Skinner really think human personality is just like training a golden retriever? We just do what gets us treats.
Well, functionally, yes. It provides a foundational mechanism. Skinner proposed that we develop what he called response tendencies.
Response tendencies.
Right, so we don't have inherent traits, we have learned probabilities. If speaking up in meetings consistently gets you praised by your boss, your probability of speaking up increases.
That makes sense.
And over time, that high probability behavior looks like the trait of extroversion. Crucially, because our environment is always changing, personality isn't fixed in childhood. It is constantly developing over our entire lives.
The textbook highlights this brilliantly with the example of Greta. Imagine Greta in her early 20s as this massive risk taker.
The adrenaline junkie phase?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She drives way above the speed limit. She hang glides, she kiteboards. Her environment, her friends, the adrenaline rush, the social media validation is constantly reinforcing that extreme behavior.
But then fast forward a few years, Greta gets married, she has children, her environment has radically shifted.
A huge shift.
Speeding in a minivan with a toddler in the back seat does not earn social praise. It brings terror and severe negative consequences.
Yeah, people honking at you, the kids crying.
Exactly. The reward structure for risk-taking vanishes, and the punishments for it skyrocket.
So she stops taking risks, and eventually the habit fades entirely. The textbook notes that today, Greta actually describes herself as a cautious person.
A total 180.
Right. Her actual personality changed because her environment demanded it. But playing the role of the student here, I see a massive blind spot in Skinner's logic.
Let's hear it.
If we are just empty vessels reacting to external stimuli, how do you account for dread or anticipation? Humans don't just react blindly. We have inner monologues. We evaluate the treat before we decide to perform the trick.
That exact friction is what forced the field to evolve. Skinner's model works smoothly if we don't think, but the second you acknowledge human reasoning, pure behaviorism breaks down.
This falls apart.
Right. And Albert Bandura recognized this limitation. He agreed that personality develops through learning, but he introduced the social cognitive perspective.
Social cognitive meaning.
Meaning, he argued that thinking and reasoning are vital, inseparable components of how we learn.
The mind is finally allowed into the equation. We aren't just reacting, we are actively processing.
Exactly. The cornerstone of Bandura's theory is a concept called reciprocal determinism. The textbook illustrates this as a triangle of three interacting forces,
Which are?
cognitive processes, behavior, and situational context. They do not operate independently. They all influence each other simultaneously.
It reminds me of a social media algorithm. Your cognition, like your personal beliefs and interests, dictates what video you initially click on.
Right.
And then that behavior tells the situational context, the app, to feed you more of that specific content. The new environment then shapes your future clicks, which further alters your beliefs.
That is a continuous, real-time feedback loop, a fantastic modern equivalent. The textbook applies this to a physical scenario, though.
The bungee jumping one, right?
Yes, bungee jumping at a festival. The behavior in question is the act of jumping, but that behavior is surrounded by the other 2 points of the triangle. The situational context is the festival itself.
Like the cheering crowd.
Exactly. The cheering crowd, the social validation for jumping, the potential embarrassment of backing out.
And then the cognitive processes act as the internal filter. What are your beliefs about safety? What is your personal risk tolerance?
Right. Have you had a bad experience with heights?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because if you logically believe the cord is frayed, your cognition screams no, completely overriding the environmental reward of the cheering crowd.
The final behavior is the result of all those factors colliding in real time. And Bandura expanded this framework even further with observational learning, or vicarious learning.
Vicarious learning.
Yeah. We don't have to experience the bungee jump or the cheering crowd ourselves. We can simply watch a model do it. We observe their actions, see if they are reinforced or punished, and learn new behavior patterns vicariously.
This is where Bandura really shatters the previous 50 years of psychology. The textbook points out a paradigm-shifting nuance here.
Oh, absolutely.
Say you were at a party and you watch a peer boasting loudly and they get a ton of attention for it. The environmental reward is obvious. Boasting equals attention.
Right.
A strict behaviorist would assume you'd automatically start boasting too because you witnessed the reward.
But Bandura realized the observer has to cognitively process that reward first. One person watches the boasting, craves that social attention, and immediately imitates the behavior.
Makes sense.
But another person watches the exact same scenario, sees the attention, but internalizes it as terrifying public scrutiny.
Oh, like they hate being the center of attention.
Exactly. They find the concept repulsive, so they completely inhibit the behavior.
So the exact same environmental reward triggers completely opposite behavioral outcomes, simply based on internal cognitive filtering.
It completely invalidates the idea that we are passive recipients of conditioning. It makes cognitive factors the most important part of the equation.
Well, one of the most prominent cognitive factors Bandura studied is self-efficacy, right?
Yes. Self-efficacy. This is our internal level of confidence in our own abilities, which is developed through our ongoing social experiences.
Okay.
People with high self-efficacy view challenges as tasks to be mastered. Because they believe their goals are within reach, they commit deeply and recover quickly from inevitable setbacks.
Whereas people with low self-efficacy fixate on negative outcomes. Their cognitive load is basically consumed by anxiety rather than task solving.
Exactly.
If they fail once, it confirms their worst fears, and they lose whatever confidence they had left. But what's really fascinating is that the textbook notes self-efficacy isn't a blanket, overarching trait. It's hyper-specific to the situation.
Right. It's not just general confidence.
Right. A student might have incredibly high self-efficacy in English class. They know they can structure a brilliant essay, but they might shut down completely in math class. Their confidence just doesn't transfer across domains.
It is a precise, targeted belief in your specific skills for a specific task.
But let me put a critical lens on this for a second. Let's say a student does have high self-efficacy in math. They know the formulas backwards and forwards.
Okay.
But they firmly believe the teacher genuinely hates them, or that the grading curve is fundamentally rigged. Their confidence in their own ability doesn't actually matter if they believe the entire system is actively working against them.
What's fascinating here is you have just brilliantly deduced the exact limitation of self-efficacy that led to our next major concept.
Oh, really?
Yes, Julian Rotter's locus of control. Self-efficacy measures your belief in your abilities. Locus of control, which was proposed by Rotter in 1966, measures your fundamental belief about the power you have over your life's outcomes.
Okay, so it's the difference between knowing how to drive the car and believing you are actually the one in the driver's seat.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. Rotter placed this concept on a continuum. On one side, you have an internal locus of control.
The internals.
Right. These individuals believe that the majority of their outcomes are the direct result of their own efforts and decisions. On the opposite side, you have an external locus of control.
And what do they believe?
These individuals believe their outcomes are dictated by outside forces, luck, fate, or just the actions of other people.
The textbook actually has a painfully relatable example to illustrate this.
Oh, the psych test.
Yes. Imagine you get a D on a psychology test because you chose to go out with friends instead of studying.
We've all been there.
If you have an internal locus of control, you process that grade by owning it entirely. You say, I chose dinner over studying. I failed because of my actions. I need to manage my time better next week.
But the internal monologue for an external locus of control operates completely differently. They look at the D and conclude the test was unfairly hard, or the professor asked trick questions.
The outcome is totally externalized.
Exactly. And because they genuinely believe the result was out of their hands, the mechanism for future action is completely destroyed. I mean, why bother studying for the next test if you believe the grade is predetermined by a malicious professor?
It spirals into a self-fulfilling prophecy. You stop trying, so you keep failing, which just confirms your belief that trying is useless in the first place.
The research bears that out in staggering ways. Studies consistently show that people with an internal locus of control perform better academically and achieve more in their careers.
That makes intuitive sense.
But the implications go far beyond success metrics. Internals are significantly healthier, they cope better with stress, and they are less depressed.
Because if you believe your actions actually move the needle, you take preventative action.
Yeah.
You don't just passively let stress wash over you. You actively problem solve.
Exactly.
You go to the doctor when you feel sick. You ask for the promotion. You don't wait for fate to deliver solutions.
The psychological mechanism at play there is profound. Believing you have power literally rewires your physiological response to adversity.
Wow.
You treat stress as a solvable puzzle rather than an inescapable, overwhelming threat. And that physically lowers cortisol levels and mitigates the health impacts of anxiety.
Okay, let me synthesize everything we have on the table so far. Skinner tells us behavior changes based on external rewards.
Right.
Bandura steps in and proves we process those rewards through a cognitive filter.
Yes.
Rotter adds that our behavior is ultimately dictated by our internal belief about our own power over those outcomes.
Correct.
So if our actions are constantly adapting to shifting rewards, our internal confidence, and our perception of control, do we even have a stable, consistent personality at all?
You have just arrived at the precipice of the great person-situation debate.
The person-situation debate.
Sparked by Walter Mischel. Mischel was actually a student of Julian Rotter and a colleague of Albert Bandura at Stanford.
Small world.
Very. He spent decades surveying empirical psychological literature to answer one question. Do personality traits actually predict behavior in a reliable way?
Well, let me guess the outcome.
Yeah.
He looked at the data and realized the person who is ruthlessly honest at the office is the exact same person who cheats on their golf score on the weekend.
Right.
So the traits don't hold up across the board.
He found exactly that. Mischel's report dropped an absolute bomb on the field of personality psychology. He found that a person's traits are not consistent across different situations.
Wow.
Someone who is highly extroverted at a party might shrink into the background and be incredibly timid during a corporate meeting.
But if traits aren't consistent, the whole foundation of personality psychology starts to crumble. I mean, what are we even measuring if people are just acting like chameleons?
Well, Mischel argued we were simply looking for consistency in the wrong places. Behavior isn't consistent across vastly different situations, but it is highly consistent within similar situations over time.
Okay.
If you are ruthlessly competitive during family board games, you will likely be highly competitive during the next family board game, even if you are totally passive and uncompetitive at work.
This naturally segues into Mischel's most famous contribution. If we are adapting to situations, we have to talk about preschoolers and willpower.
We do. Mischel's groundbreaking work centered on self-regulation.
Willpower, basically.
Essentially, yes. It is the complex process of identifying a goal and using internal thoughts to delay immediate gratification in order to attain a larger long-term reward.
Like Bettina in the textbook.
Yes, Bettina is a prime example. Her teenage son bakes fresh strawberry cupcakes. They are sitting right there on the counter. But Bettina is training for a 5K race.
She has to self-regulate, forfeit the immediate sugar rush for the long-term goal of finishing her race strong.
Exactly.
Which is incredibly difficult for adults to manage, let alone 4-year-olds. And this is the premise of the legendary marshmallow test.
Walk us through the setup of that experiment.
Sure. So Mischel and his team bring a preschooler into a room and place a single marshmallow on the table.
The ultimate temptation.
Right. And the researcher says, you can eat this now, but I have to leave the room. If you wait until I come back and the marshmallow is still there, I will give you 2 marshmallows.
And then they leave.
And then they leave the toddler entirely alone with the temptation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The hidden camera footage from these experiments is a masterclass in cognitive strategy.
I bet.
The children who succeed don't just sit there staring at the marshmallow with raw, white-knuckled willpower. They actively employ cognitive distraction techniques.
What do?
They cover their eyes, they turn their chairs around, they sing songs to themselves. They mentally change how they perceive the marshmallow to lower its immediate appeal.
They are literally altering their own situational context to survive the wait.
Yes.
But Mischel didn't just study how they waited, right? The massive reveal came decades later. Mischel's team tracked these exact preschoolers through high school and well into adulthood.
And the longitudinal data was staggering. The children who demonstrated high self-regulation in preschool, the ones who successfully waited for the second marshmallow, had significantly higher SAT scores, better peer relationships, and less substance abuse.
That's wild.
As adults, they even maintained more stable marriages.
All predicted by how they handle a marshmallow. And what about the kids who grabbed the first marshmallow?
They were far more likely to experience academic and behavioral problems in high school. However, maintaining my role as a responsible lecturer, I have to ensure we include the crucial caveat provided in the textbooks.
Right, the science of all.
Science is an iterative process. A 2018 study by Watts and colleagues revisited this concept with a much larger, more representative sample of children.
I imagine the results weren't quite as perfectly clean as marshmallow equals destiny.
They were not. Watts found that while early delay of gratification still predicted later achievement, the association was significantly weaker than Mischel originally reported.
Interesting.
More importantly, they found that the capacity to wait was highly sensitive to situational factors, things like early cognitive capacity, family background, and the home environment.
Which makes complete logical sense. If a child grows up in an unpredictable environment where promises are routinely broken, it is incredibly rational to eat the first marshmallow immediately.
Precisely.
Waiting is a sucker's bet if your environment has taught you not to trust the researcher to actually come back with the second one.
That is the pivotal takeaway. The child isn't lacking some inherent willpower trait. They are rationally processing their specific environment based on their cognitive history, which perfectly resolves the great person's situation debate. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Mischel ultimately concluded that people are situation processors.
Situation processors.
We don't blindly react to rewards, and we aren't bound by rigid, unchangeable traits. We use our cognitive processes to interpret the unique reward structure of a situation and then behave in accordance with that interpretation.
Dropping the student persona to wrap this up, look at the massive journey we just took. We started with Skinner, treating us like simple input-output machines molded purely by environmental rewards.
A long way from there.
Yeah, and then Bandura flipped the script by proving our minds actively filter those rewards. Rotter showed us how our fundamental belief in our own power dictates our trajectory. And finally, Mischel brought it all together by proving we are dynamic situation processors, constantly adapting to the rooms we walk into.
It is a profound evolution in how we view human nature. And it leaves us with one final provocative thought.
Leave us with it.
If your personality isn't an inborn, unchangeable biological destiny, but rather an ongoing, active process of how you perceive and react to the situations around you, what specific parts of your environment could you change tomorrow to literally start becoming a different person?
Seriously, think about that the next time you reflect on who you were 5 years ago.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Section 11.4.